Hey everybody, welcome back to another Senators Roundtable. I'm Jacob Billington, joined by Dayton, Reimer, and Quinney as always. It's been quite an emotional week for Senators fans. Some have felt the high, some have felt the very low lows, but we're here to talk about it all. So how you guys doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I am now the proud grandfather of grandchild number 3. My granddaughter, Charlotte Lucy, was born this morning at 5:30 in the morning. So I'd like to welcome her, and as we call her, Charlie. So cool to have a new grandchild in the family.
Well, congratulations, and very happy to hear that. Dayton, how you doing?
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah, pretty good. A little less so now that I saw that the weather alert is supposed to come snow again. Big dump of snow is coming in Saskatoon. What the heck?
We're sitting here March 26th, and we've got 15 centimeters coming tonight in Nova Scotia.
Well, we're getting 20 millimeters of ice, freezing rain Friday. So lots of fun right across the country.
Apparently, yeah. Is it not spring? Should this not be doing spring things?
March came in like a lion, or in like a lamb, and is going out like a lion. So
always does, and I'm always suckered into it.
Yeah,
I always think, oh, we're finally done. We're all over. Yeah. All right. So first thing on the docket tonight, takeaways from the 3-2 loss to the Sabres. Was not a great game. A lot of struggles in that game. Anton Forsberg, his stats at the end of the night didn't look terrible, but he didn't look good during the game. Travis Hamonic and Tyler Kleven had maybe the worst game either of them have ever played, and they did it together. Was not a good performance. Couldn't beat the Sabres. Couldn't get much scoring going. What are your thoughts on the game? We'll start with you, Paul.
Well, certainly Buffalo seems to have Ottawa's number, right? This season, they've won 3 of 4 matches. The 4th one's coming up pretty soon. One of the 12 remaining games, I think the Senators have got, or is it 16? 12.
12. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you mentioned Forsberg. He just is not good enough. He has to go. Look, he has to go in goal when Ullmark needs a break, and it can't be. The attitude can't be, oh well, it's our backup goaltender in net, and we can excuse losses. Somehow he's got to find a way to win those games, particularly now as they head down the final stretch, and he's just not doing it. Last night he was a .875 points percentage. That's not NHL caliber goaltending. The average in the NHL is .903, which makes me think of Ullmark. He's only at .908, and I made the point last week that he's got to step up and find another level, or at least try to get back to something approaching where he was when he won the Vezina. They just had to win this game, and they didn't get the job done, which is astonishing. It's frustrating if you're an Ottawa Senators fan. Here they are up against a 38-year-old James Reimer. They couldn't get much past him. And, Buffalo, to put it in perspective, is the worst team in the Eastern Conference. At this point in the season, you got to take those 2 points from a team like Buffalo.
Yeah, Dayton, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I 100% agree. Forsberg has to be better. He has to be a goalie that you can throw in to make good saves on a tough game. He has to come in and be consistent, and that is just not Forsberg's game. He is up and down the whole time, and that was one of his downtimes, and that can't happen against a team like the Sabres. You mentioned Hamonic. That's a player that has to go. We've talked about it a lot, but every defensive pair with Hamonic, no matter who he plays for, somehow puts up the worst numbers of their season. Like you got to read the trends here. He's not an NHL player for the Senators right now. He's performing significantly below NHL average. He's bringing other people down with him. You can't have somebody like that playing significant minutes anymore. Even if he's fantastic in the dressing room, you have to move on, and they have to make sure that they don't even offer him a contract. Like, he has to walk after this season, because those were two major issues with that loss. And if you can't fix that for the playoffs or coming into the playoffs, there might not be a playoffs.
I want to just comment on that, Dayton. I was just looking at the stats randomly before I came on the show, and Hamonic's he's a plus minus of minus 17. Well, guess who else is a minus 17? It's Jake Sanderson. So, not that I'm putting those two in the same bucket, but I just thought it was interesting. He's on plus minus as bad as arguably our best, the Senators' best defenseman.
Mm-hmm. And I did a deep dive earlier in the season on why that is. And it's because he plays with Hamonic, or at least at that point, he was playing a lot with Hamonic. When they go out, they were together. Yeah. And so their minus would be going down at the same time. He's an anchor. You can't have someone like that on your defensive pairing, even as like a seventh guy. Oh, throw him in whenever. No, clearly you can't.
So Sanderson's digging himself out of a hole that was dug with Hamonic early in the season. Yeah, good point.
And I think a big part of that, I don't want to sit here and blame the sixth defenseman and the third right-hand defenseman for a loss. It's the coach's job to identify that Hamonic can't be on the ice at that time. And I'm not saying, like, Travis Green has been phenomenal for this team, but, man, he's just got to identify that Travis Hamonic is unplayable at this point.
Yeah.
Well, and, they're playing him with Tyler Clevin, a rookie. That's a tough pairing, the third pairing.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you all saw the tweet, but Sean Tierney, the director of analytics for the Senators, Steve Stais said the other day, and this is a quote, thank you to Kevin Lee for putting this on Twitter for us. One of the most recent return emails I got from Sean Tierney was entitled Bad Ideas, and it had a list of players that I seemed to like, but the numbers didn't back it up. So that's what Steve Stais had to say. And that was trade deadline talk, was Sean Tierney saying, listen, don't go get these guys. So I wonder if, like, Scott Lawton or Brandon Tanev or, like, all these guys the Senators were linked to, like, I wonder if they were on that list. But this isn't about that. This is about Travis Hamonic. And Sean Tierney, the director of analytics, needs to identify that you can't play Travis Hamonic either. And I'm not trying to tell Sean Tierney how to do his job. I'm sure that's been a conversation. But I don't know. It's clear he is doing his job. Like a quote like that coming from Stais is, imagine telling a Senators fan 5 years ago that we have the director of analytics sending emails to the general manager about who and who not to acquire. Like, this was a one-man show with Pierre Dorion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not criticizing either of the people there. I'm just saying, like, I wonder what's going on behind the scenes there.
But this is the end of Hamonic's contract, right? This year, he doesn't have another year. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you're right. He'll ride off into the sunset somewhere.
Yeah. You got to let him go. I'm sure that if there's already been an email sent about which guys to not acquire, there's been an email sent about where the free agents are going, which players have shown that they can contribute in a lot of different areas. And Hamonic hasn't been that guy. I don't think he's ever been that guy. This season's been especially bad.
He has been that guy. He was fantastic with the Islanders. Hamonic was a great top
in Ottawa, though. In Ottawa,
absolutely not.
Yeah. We're not going back to the Islanders because he was a good player at that time, and he hasn't been that guy. Ow, sorry, it's a cat biting me.
But Hamonic was he played in Vancouver, didn't he? Under Green, there was a relationship there. And I don't know, maybe Green and Steos let their heart get the better of them. I don't know, because he's a
and maybe
Well,
in a tough
Hamonic
game
wasn't
like
good under
that.
Green in Vancouver
Yeah.
either.
Sorry?
He wasn't good under Green in Vancouver either.
No, it wasn't good. But I wonder if in a tense game like that, you turn to guys you're more familiar with, and he's just like, okay, Hamonic, you go out there and you fix things. But that was the wrong call.
It's been 70 games. It's been 70 games. He's comfortable with these guys now.
Yeah.
So, Ottawa did not play very well against Buffalo. Why do they struggle against weaker teams? And now, all 32 teams are NHL teams. They're full of NHL players. It's not easy to win any game. Even playing against Chicago or Buffalo or San Jose, there's no easy wins in this league. But why do the Senators struggle against the weaker opponents? We look at the 0-3-0 record against the Sabres. It's the same against the Canadians. Why do they struggle against the weaker teams? Anybody have an answer to that?
Well, I'll take a quick crack at it. So one explanation could be, and I'm worried about going out into the streets here in Ottawa if I say this, but I'll say it anyway. Maybe they're just not that good a team. As good a team as people think they are. The wins that Ottawa fans think they should have, well, they're not getting. Well, maybe they're just not that good a team. They're overestimating them. I think probably though in my mind the better explanation is what I call the flat foot theory, right? So, a team like Ottawa, a good team, comes out maybe taking a team like Buffalo for granted or not taking that seriously. Hey, maybe let's take the night off. After all, it's only Buffalo we're playing. And then, of course, they're up against a team like Buffalo, which has a point to prove. And there's an upset. They lose a game that they shouldn't lose.
I think that Ottawa is absolutely a good team. I don't agree with your first point at all. They hang in with all of the top teams in the league. They do very well against the Washington Capitals. They have a 1-0-2 record, but that's 0 regulation losses against the best team in the NHL. They 3-0 against the Leafs this year. They've done well against the Lightning. They've done well against all of the top teams. They just can't play well against the bad teams.
Yeah, no, my best guess is it's a mentality thing. You go into a game against the Capitals, they're sitting way up top in the standings. You got to play hard. You got to play fast. You got to play strong. And they do. And they've proven that they can do that against the top teams. And then they win, right? The Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs have been at the top of the standings or near the top of the standings for many seasons. And the Senators will come in and beat them. They are very good at doing that. It really feeds into this rivalry that's building right now. Love to see the Battle of Ontario returning because you don't have a team that is struggling and one that is thriving anymore. You've got a bit more of a balance.
Yeah, but couldn't you say that all feeds into my theory of the flat foot theory? I mean, here they are. Here the Senators are, right? I mean, look, the Senators, they're only a .564 hockey club, points percentage wise, and they're struggling to make a wild card spot. They're not as good as some of the stuff I hear on social media about how good they are. And then they come up against top teams like the Leafs, and Ottawa's up for it. The Leafs are, it's just Ottawa in town. Let's take the night off. I mean, all of that to support my theory of they get caught flat-footed against teams that want to win more than they do, and that's why they come up short against teams that on paper aren't very good, like the Sabres.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably the best explanation at the moment. And it worked kind of both ways, right? A team that is stronger looks at Ottawa and it's like, they're fine. We'll try a little bit. And I think it's because Ottawa's a pretty mid-pack team. They're a midfield team, to use an F1 term. they're better than the worst teams, and they're not as good as the strong teams, and so that's why they're right in the middle, struggling for a wild card spot. They have a lot of talent. I think they can become a really good team. They're not there yet, and the time that they should have been building that was wasted on a lot of terrible moves and such that we don't need to rehash again.
Well, for what it's worth, all the hockey pundits in my beer league dressing room who are Leaf fans, they're all hoping and praying that it's Ottawa they face in the first round. Because if they do, they think they're going to win, and then it's they're Stanley Cup bound.
Yeah. Just like they were praying for Florida.
We want Florida.
We want Florida.
Yeah. You be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I'll tell them that.
Yeah. You can say that I said that.
Yeah. Tune in to the Senators Roundtable. Yeah.
There we go.
So with the Senators struggling as of late, losing 3 of the last 4, should Brady Tkachuk sit out a few games? We know he's dealing with a bit of a hip injury. I wonder if it's from the Four Nations because he missed a couple games after that. He came back, and then now he's hit or miss with the hip injury. So should the Senators sit him, or are these games too important? I'd say he's at about 75%. So do you trust the rest of the lineup to get the job done, or do you need him at 75%, or do you just let him get to 100%? What do you do?
I think it's not a terrible idea to rest him at least a couple of games here. These hockey players will play until their limbs fall off. They are so highly competitive, and that's why you hear so many guys playing with injuries in the playoffs, is because you could tell them, yeah, you need to sit, and they're like, no, we have to play. We have to play. That's how so many of those stories go. That's why I'm not a hockey player. I just don't have that drive or skill, but that's another thing.
Well, Patrice Bergeron played with like 4 broken fingers and a punctured lung or something like that. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's highly, highly competitive. And Brady wants to play. He wants to be out there, but he's not 100% effective, like he said. So if playoffs are the goal, I think you need to rest him, because then you can do something in the playoffs. And he'll come back and he'll be ready. I think you can trust the rest of this lineup to get them to the playoffs. Linus Ullmark is a strong goalie when he's on, and for the most part, he's been on. There's been a couple of unfortunate blips, but for the most part, I think he's been pretty good this season. Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub, those guys are solid defensemen. Nick Jensen, who's been added to that core, that top 4 defense. Tim Stützle now has, you can throw Dylan Cousins with them, or look pretty good with Fabian Zetterlund, that top line. David Perron, he's looking a little bit better now. Like this, there's a good, strong team here that if you take out one guy, it should be okay. Now, they may discover if they take out one guy, it's not okay. And if that's the case, there's a lot bigger problems than making the playoffs.
Well, sit them. I guess if I thought they had a lock on a playoffs, I'd say, yeah, sit them, in anticipation of playoff action. But the fact is, they need them. They're not in a playoff spot is not guaranteed here. To put it in perspective, I think they're going to need 95 points to win a playoff spot. And that means, they've got 79 points now. So they're going to have to find 16 points in the 12 games that remain. And I don't think that's going to be an easy thing. And they, as I say, they may well need Tkachuk. A points percentage, if they're going to get 16 points in the remaining 12, then that translates to a points percentage of 666. I don't want to jinx them with that number, but the Dallas Stars, for comparison purposes, they're 671. The Carolina Hurricanes 634. Vegas 632. So they're going to have to play some good hockey here, and that's not going to be easy with the schedule that they face. They've of their 12 remaining games, they've got Tampa, they've got Florida, the Carolina Hurricanes, and then they're facing Detroit and the Canadiens, Columbus Blue Jackets 3 times. These clubs are going to be fighting desperately for a playoff spot, so they're not going to be easy games. I think the only easy games they've got would be the Flyers, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. But last night Buffalo was supposed to be an easy game, and they coughed up the 2 points. So all of that to say, you know what? I don't think they can rest Tkachuk.
Yeah, I it's a big decision. I think that there's definitely pros and cons either way. I think the Senators, I give them a 95% chance of making the playoffs at this point, but that's not 100%, and so you got to keep going. But I think that they're better off just going to keep going without Brady Tkachuk in the roster at 75% health. I think that they need to let him rest. Maybe it's only 3 games he misses, 4 games he misses. So would you rather 8 more games of him at 100% or 3 games with him at 75 and then another 3 of him at 65 and then down to 60, and then by the end of the season you're heading into the playoffs, he's useless because he's getting no time to recover. That's my thought on it. I would let him sit 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, I guess it kind of boils down to what your priority is. Is it making the playoffs or competing in the playoffs? Yeah. Competing, you need a healthy Brady. Making it, use him up, right? If it doesn't matter when you get there and it's just like, oh, we made it, great, then yeah, use him up. But if you actually want to try to do something in the playoffs, he's going to be deadly in the playoffs. Like that's his style of game. We saw what his brother did with the Panthers. That's a guy that is very, very difficult to handle when things change in the playoffs. So yeah, I'd rest him. I think this is a statement year. The Senators need to do something to show that this rebuild wasn't so long just for the reason of being, poorly managed, that it actually has some fruit here. And we may think it was mostly poorly managed, but let's see some results, I think. And if it's just getting to the playoffs, I don't know. That'll be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow if they can't show a competitive edge once they get there.
Yeah, I think my last comment on this is just that I feel bad, and I'm not jealous of Travis Green for when he has to tell Brady Tkachuk to sit out a game. That's not going to go over very well at this point in the season. So, Going back to the game against the Sabres, one of the stars of the game, Jacob Bernard-Docker. Who would have thought? Obviously, we didn't get to see Josh Norris. A bit unfortunate. Hopefully, we get to see him next week when Buffalo's in town. But Jacob Bernard-Docker, he scored a goal. He's got 3 points in 4 games, maybe 3 games. So he's 1 assist off of tying his season totals with Ottawa, which he had in 25 games, which was 1 goal and 4 assists. Did Ottawa mishandle him? Whether it be DJ Smith or whether it be Travis Green this year, mind you, he was injured for a lot, or Pierre Dorion sending him up and down so much. What do you think? Is it mishandling, or is he just off to a hot start with a new team?
I mean, I think yes is the answer. Yeah, the Senators totally mishandled JBD. He was a first-round pick. He was one of the best defensive players in college. I believe he won at least 1 award, maybe 2, just going off the top of my head, stating how good he was at defense. He's a solid producer. When he is in that role, he very, very solid prospect. He was never going to be a top pairing guy, but should have maybe developed into a second pairing or really solid third pairing guy. And they just kind of, yo-yoed him around. They gave him little bits when he was deserving of more. And then they kind of just stuck him as the seventh guy this year behind Hamonic, and they kind of used them interchangeably. He was better. He always had better numbers than Hamonic. I remember going back and like, why are they not playing this guy? He's doing totally fine. He is a average defenseman, whereas Hamonic was playing below average. And that kind of left them in this bit of a pickle where they had too many right shot defensemen. And someone had to go. You can't move Hamonic. You got to move JBD. Could he have become something in Ottawa? Maybe. But I think they kind of burnt that bridge, and he needed a fresh start somewhere else. So now he's got a fresh start. It's going really well. It's going to return back to a normal pace. He is not a point per game defenseman. He's not even a half point per game defenseman. He's like, if you get, I think, 20 points out of him in a season, you're doing something great. So this isn't a massive loss for the Senators. He's feeling it in Buffalo, and that's great. I'm really happy for him. Unfortunately, we know how it goes when you go to Buffalo, so I hope he avoids that.
Paul, what do you think?
Well, come on here. The fact that he's matched his total points or his points in 3 games in Buffalo with what he scored in Ottawa isn't saying much. I mean, 25 games, he got 1 goal and 3 points, right? Or 3 assists. I took a look when I saw we were going to talk about this point. I took a look at, maybe it's his time on ice, but he's actually getting less time on ice per game in Buffalo than he did in Ottawa, so that can't be it. And I thought, well, okay, maybe in Buffalo, he is playing on the second defense pairing. That wasn't the case in Ottawa, but I don't think that explains it. Mishandled, maybe, but maybe too soon to conclude anything like that. Let's see after, he has 10, 15 games with Buffalo where he is as opposed to his current 3. But, on that point of was he mishandled? Well, you can argue this point, but, Clevin as a rookie seems to be doing okay. So it seems to me that somebody in the Ottawa organization knows how to handle young players. I just think it was with JBD, as good as he was and as promising as he was as, in his junior day, he didn't play junior, but he played with University of North Dakota. People thought there'd be big things of him, but you had to make the transition to the NHL, and maybe that's just something he couldn't do. As for Buffalo, I'm sure he's glad to be out of Ottawa. He's got to be feeling better down there. Perhaps he's in a situation where there's, he feels he can write a new chapter and live up to the potential that he believes he has. Yeah.
So my last thing that I want to say, you mentioned North Dakota, obviously Shane Pinto, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Bernard-Docker. I'm just amazed, surprised, shocked, whatever you want to say, that they parted ways with Brad Berry. Brad Berry was such a fantastic, not only development coach, but just a great coach for getting championships. Like he did very well in his time with University of North Dakota. He was there for 10 years. I think a lot of people were surprised about it. But yeah, if there's ever, I assume he's going to gun for an NHL job at this point. He said publicly he bleeds the green and black or green and white, whatever he said, for the Fighting Hawks. If he's going for an NHL job and it's not going to be a head coach, I 100% think that he should be on this Senators coaching staff. So yeah. I just wanted to throw that in there at the end.
Yeah, UND, they really have gone to that well over the years, haven't they?
Yep.
Well, that in Sweden, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, maybe this offseason we see another UND reunion with Brock Besser coming over. Who knows? But yeah, that'll wrap things up for this episode. Let us know your thoughts on all that, and thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the Senators content on thehockeywriters.com, as well as the Substack, where you can get all of the latest articles and posts right in your email. So thanks for checking this episode out, and we'll see you next time.